The inspiration for this project came from Ikea, where I saw this bowl. Immediately I thought that would be a challenging project. So this is the story of how I went about making my own version, and along the way you'll see a couple of disasters, as things don't always go as planned. I've made up 3 discs of corian, which I've made from 6 semicircles. These are what I'm going to use to make a female side of a mould. I'll just assemble them all together now. On the CNC, I've drilled a hole in the baseboard which I'll use to give me the centre of what I'm cutting out. All I have to do now is set the CNC X and Y axis to 0, and that will give me the centre datum. I use masking tape and superglue to hold the piece to the wasteboard. This will ensure it is held in place during the machining. I'm going to move the CNC over the centre, then change the tool to carry out a roughing toolpath. I didn't show the roughing cut, but it's now complete. I've changed the tool, and we're all ready to start the finishing cut. So when it's complete, you'll be able to see what it looks like. Well, that took 3.5 hours, but now it's complete. The surface has been sanded to 240 grit, and there are some small gaps between the segments and the layers that I'm going to fill with this knifing paste. Okay, that's that done. I'll just leave it to dry up and then I'll sand it down to 600 or maybe 1000 to try and get this nice and shiny. The knifing paste is dry and I'm going to flat it off with this 600 wet and dry. I've given it about 5 coats of mould release wax and it's ready to move on to the next stage. It feels pretty smooth. The next stage is to build up some clear layers of resin over the whole mould. The first layer is complete, so I'll leave it to dry. This has now had 4 coats of resin and is about 2 mm thick. So I'm going to move on to what I think is next. I've been watching some acrylic paint art on YouTube and I think I'm going to have a go at that. I'm going to mix the paint, with a 50-50 ratio, with the paint itself and this Elmer's glue wall. I've mixed my paints now, so here goes, let's see what happens. I'll start off with pouring it around the top. Well, that's it finished now. I've got all the surface covered. I can't really see any gaps. It's just a case of waiting for it to dry. Which supposedly could take up to a week. We'll just have to wait and see. Right, the paint surface is dried now, and so the next stage is to give it a coat of black resin, which will seal in all the paint. And what we've got to remember is it's not this side that you're going to see, it's the inside when it's taken from the mould. So I'll get on with that now. Right, that's the first coat, black, put on, and it's definitely going to need another coat. And the next stage is to put resin around the outside of the mould, so I can build up some thickness. I was going to use a silicone mould, but it turns out that it's slightly too small. I must have mismeasured when I made the actual female part of the mould. So I'm going to use this saucepan in an attempt to do it, because that's slightly bigger. Right, I've lined the saucepan with some cling film, and now I'm going to spray some silicone release spray in there, mould release, because I've got to get it back out of this thing, which might not be very easy. Don't want to have to ruin the saucepan. Right, I've put the mould in the saucepan and lined it up so it looks like it's as central as I can possibly line it up by eye. I've put a spirit level on it, and it's reading level in the saucepan, so it's time for resin now. Okay, here goes the resin then. Okay, that's the mould filled now. Took a bit of quite a bit of resin, but it's done now. So I've got to just wait for it to dry. Right, it's now time to see whether I can get this thing out of the saucepan. Right, all these bolts were put on here to try and get this dead level so that I didn't get too much going over the top of the mould itself. Well, that came out easy enough. I've cleaned all the excess resin away, and now it's time to see if we can get this out of the whole thing. Right, I'm just going to see if I can break the seal all the way around, which might aid it to come out. Well, that part's all come unstuck. Right, I can't get these to come free at the moment. There is a spot of super glue at the either end that holds them together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill 2 holes on this side, which is 13mm deep, and the corian is actually 12mm thick, so drill the 2 holes, tap the holes, and then screw the screws in, and it should push the plate out, hopefully anyway. Right, I'm only going to tap the hole down 11mm. Starting to go, because it's moving here. Right, it's one bit out. It's lifting. Okay, that's out nicely as well. Right, the join for the next bit is in a different place to where the last one was. The last one was across here. This is the second joint. So I'll have to do a similar sort of thing down this side. But what I've got to remember is not to go too far out, because the base is actually not much bigger than that. Right, okay, we're ready to try it again. Here goes. Let's lift in there. Okay, that's that gone. Right, I've only got 2 more bits to get out now. I've tried to pull this out with my hands and there's no way that's coming out. Right, I just got one piece out by hitting it on the back with a mallet. So I'm going to try this piece now and see if that, hopefully that'll come out. There you go. There is some damage here, it's delaminated, which isn't too good. I'll have to see if I can try and repair that. Anyway, I've managed to retrieve it, and what I did was picked out all the inside layer of resin, and it's now delaminated between the resin and the paint. What I'll have to do is varnish the inside and it'll make it hard again. I've given the inside a few coats of lacquer and it doesn't look too bad, but now I want to clean up this surface here because it's a bit poor. That's it. I've made a centre boss so that I can put it in the chuck and hold it on the lathe, okay. And I've also made these ribs. Now, what they're going to do, they all line up with each one of the corners of the octagon. And I'm going to fill them with little tiny bits of wood, then cover it over and fill it with resin, and then turn it down afterwards. Right, I've done 4 of the segments and it's time now to fill them with resin. So I'm going to choose blue resin. I'm going to fill 4 in with blue resin, let them set, then tomorrow take the moulds off and do the other 4. Okay, that's all 4 sides done, and all I need to do now is wait for it to set and then I can take the mould off. I've removed the moulds from the blue resin and I've now done all the other 4 segments. 2 segments I've used pistachio nut shells, and the other 2 segments I've used offcuts of resin from previous projects. I think I'm going to fill the pistachio nuts with black resin and the offcuts with red resin. All 8 segments are filled now. All I've got to do is let this dry and then remove the mould, and then I've got a bit of work to do on this bottom part as well, so there's going to be another bit of a mould built there. Then it'll be turning time. It's the final bit of the base mould. Right, this base part is now dried and I'm just going to remove the mould. Have a look at it.
That looks okay.
Now for some turning.
Okay, I'm nearly down to smooth all the way around now, so it's starting to turn a bit better. Well, I've had a disaster on. I've gone through the outer layering of what I put on. I thought it's a lot deeper than that, but obviously it wasn't. So I'm going to try and rectify the situation. I see what it's like when I sanded it out, and I think it probably look all right, but it's a bit of a shame.
Well, it was a good project for something very new. Even though it had its ups and downs, it was still fun to do. Tell me what you think, and bye for now. Thanks for watching.